Hi, I'm Kim. You're watching Kim Wilson TV. My channel is dedicated to helping victims of narcissistic abuse get free and stay free. Before I get going with this video, I just want to thank my friend Terry very much for your donation to our channel's PayPal account. Your donations keep the channel going and keep the channel growing. I don't know if anybody else noticed, but we crossed over 20,000 subscribers last night. In fact, I woke up to see that we had made that milestone. For all of you that subscribe, that share my videos and leave a thumbs up and take the time to comment and share your personal experience, thank you all so very much. The channel is what you guys have made it. Since I am blowing my own horn today, I also want to add that 2 years in a row, we were voted one of the best narcissistic abuse channels by FeedSpot. Thank you so much, FeedSpot. In light of this milestone being reached today, I'm going to read some comments and I'm going to answer them. The first one is from Lori B. I'm curious, most of us realize that we were groomed for narc abuse by narc parents. How did you end up with Trevor besides his con man bullshit? Well, let me tell you, this is something I have never spoken about here at the channel. I have always known that I had an abusive mother. Now, my father died when I was 12 years old, and my mother moved us from Toronto, where all of our family was, to British Columbia, where basically my little sister and I were completely isolated. It really wasn't until I left Trevor and really started to get a sense of, what narcissism actually is and how it affects people's lives, did I realize that my mother is most definitely a member of the cluster B. Now, I haven't talked about it because, to be honest with you, I think I need to self-explore a little bit more and really come to terms with how I feel about that and how the abuse inflicted on me by my mother has impacted my life. Now, my mother was a covert narcissist. She was very sabotaging in my life. My sister was the scapegoat, and truly my mother does hate me. I've really come to recognize that. But in addition to that, my mother was a very physically abusive woman, a very violent household I lived in. So I'm also struggling with that whole physical abuse thing. I do want to discuss this in future videos, and many of you have asked me, to address the parental narcissistic abuse issue, and I do want to do it. I guess I feel very volatile because I think I need to reach a place where I'm maybe a bit more angry about it, because now when I think about it and I kind of sit in it and I try and reflect on what that was like for me and how it's impacted my life, I will say I'm brought to tears most of the time. I really don't feel confident enough to discuss it yet. It's a real emotional thunderstorm because your mother is supposed to be the person you run to. Your mother is supposed to be the person that you go to for love and security and safety and nurturing. And when your mother is actually the person that is behind so much of the damage in your early development, well, you've got that weird conflicting thing. You want to run to your mom, but you got to run away from your mom. And now, since I've really come to terms with, what my childhood looked like, I have gone no contact from my mother. I mean, not that it matters. She ghosted me most of the time anyways. She'd do some absolutely horrendously odious shit to me, and then when I try and communicate with her, try to reach out to her and try and make sense of it, she would just ghost me. So the fact that I'm no contact now is really not that much different in my life because I've been ghosted most of my life anyways. I am going to talk about it, and thank you so much, Lori B, for bringing it up. Many of you have brought it up, and as I start to feel a bit better about being raised by a narcissist, I most certainly will do future videos about that. Before I move on to the next comment, I just want to add one more thing regarding narcissistic childhood abuse. I believe in many ways it does help to set us up to be good targets for future narcissists in our lives. Now, what I mean by that is we develop the skills as children to be good supply for narcissists. We've learned how to live on the eggshells. We learn how to back down very quickly. We learn how to comply. We learn how to, keep the apple cart from tipping. We learn how to get along. We learn how to pick our words carefully. We learn to be more tolerant, more forgiving, because we really just want to calm things down. We want to smooth things over. We don't want to, see a massive eruption of chaos in our lives. So through no fault of our own, we do get very good at damage control, chaos maintenance, and this sort of thing. And I do believe it does, that early education does make us ideal candidates and really prime targets for narcissists later in life. And I said I didn't want to talk about it, but I feel like I have to add one more thing. I do believe when you grow up with violence, extreme brutality, physical harm, I do believe it makes you really skilled, when it comes to smoothing things over, to, prevent a situation from escalating to the point of violence. And just having that skill, I suppose, can be quite beneficial. But I do believe that when you add physical violence to childhood abuse, it does make it very difficult to reflect on. And I do believe that's why I've had such a hard time with it. The addition of physical brutality does conjure up all kinds of memories and things that are very, very hard to sit in. I think I'll just quickly move on to the next topic before I start to cry. The next comment is from Light of Life, and the comment reads, "Yes, he was wonderful, then the shit got real. It just took a while to recognize it and take action. My mistakes were giving people too many chances that they did not deserve. I know better now." And most certainly, hindsight is always 20/20. As Light of Life mentions, yes, they do appear to be wonderful, and most certainly shit does get real. But I do believe as part of that early targeting, as part of that early setup and the love bombing, the narcissist very quickly starts to isolate people. They very quickly establish themselves as victims, causing, quite often in an empath the need to try to help them. So an empath will quite often commit quite early to helping them. Whether or not you did that, consciously or subconsciously. I know for me, the fact that Trevor claimed to be so emotionally hurt, and he would have been a different man had he met me earlier. Like all of that, seemed to subconsciously put a responsibility on me. And I think subconsciously I did in turn make a commitment to try and help him through those things. And an empath, once making a commitment, doesn't want to break their word, So I believe that we get trapped very quickly. Another thing that happens, of course, is the relationship is moving so fast. The relationship doesn't have time, to develop naturally. So very quickly we end up living with them or getting married to them, or, entering into a business partnership with them or something like that, that then, bonds us to them. So now we've got all these other issues that are kind of holding us to them. And Light of Life, I think it's fabulous that you woke up to it and were able to get out. I mean, that's the absolute best outcome for each and every one of us. And if you are still stuck with the narcissist for any number of reasons, just waking up to it, recognizing how truly toxic the relationship is and how poisonous this person is going to help you to start to establish an exit strategy. And my exit strategy took me 7 months, but damn it, the 7 months passed and I got out, so you too will get out. Of course, as you guys know, I do believe these vile things to be demonically possessed. Now, I do have another screen up here on my computer for a moment, and what this screen is the character traits of demons. And I'll tell you, it was the character traits of demons that initially triggered me to the fact there was something gravely wrong with Trevor. Now, I've mentioned this before in videos, but I'll say it again. When I really came to realize that there was something so bloody wrong with Trevor, I just couldn't get my head around it, I did a Google search, but I had no idea what I was Googling or what I was looking for. I'd never heard, terms like narcissist or cluster B before. I didn't understand what gaslighting or triangulation was. I didn't even understand the term love bombing, though I had most certainly been, the victim of a love bombing. So I initially just punched into, the Google search bar his behaviors, and what popped up were thousands, tens of thousands of websites and search results for demonic possession. So as I kind of further explored that, I did look into, the character traits of demons, and my God, it's like, yeah, just one after the other. And so, of course, at that point, I did become quite convinced that they were demonically possessed. And then we had, through research, the discovery of doctors like the Canadian expert on narcissistic abuse and, well, the cluster Bs in general. And I did call him the Canadian expert, but he is actually considered one of the global experts. His name is Dr. Robert Hare. He does live in Canada, and he is the professor. He is the head of the psychiatry department at UBC. He also heads the behavioral sciences department. Dr. Robert Hare very clearly says they're not human, they're interspecies predators. And of course, in the United States, you've got some great experts there as well. You've got Dr. Caroline Leaf, who absolutely says they are demonically possessed. And then you've got Dr. Richard Gallagher. Now, Dr. Richard Gallagher's website has changed a little bit in the last little while. His website used to offer, psychiatric treatment, therapies, things like this. Now, if you check out his website, it says, he's a psychiatrist. He also helps to detect demonic possession and also works with exorcists all over the world. So I'm not the only one that thinks they're demonically possessed. In fact, if you do visit Be Good 4000, James's channel, James rarely talks about Susie anymore. James talks specifically about the connection between narcissists and demons. Now, something that I think, is really kind of interesting. I've got the list of character traits up here, and one of them at the top is demons are also known to appear to be familiar spirits. And I do believe it is this presenting themselves through deception, through mirroring, through mind control, and all kinds of other witchcraft and voodoo. I do believe they present as very familiar spirits. And it is this familiar spirit because, of course, they've mirrored us. So the spirit they're presenting back to us that, ultimately hooks us and we ultimately fall in love with is in fact ourselves. So they are most definitely presenting a very familiar spirit. They're presenting you back to you. So they are presenting something that you are very familiar with. Your sense of morality, integrity, all of that. So I do believe that why they appear to be so wonderful does kind of fall back on that really dark energy where they mirror us and, recreate this false self that is actually us, therefore creating a spirit that's extremely familiar to us. And we don't just fall in love with them. We fall head over heels in love with them. We believe we've met our soulmate, our twin flame, the most wonderful person, for us. And why wouldn't you fall in love with somebody that appeared to be just like you? Much all the subject matter that I come up with for videos is from your comments, and guys, I cannot thank you enough for helping our channel meet this incredible milestone. We have 20,000 subscribers. Guys, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate it. I truly appreciate the donations to the channel's PayPal account. It is what keeps the channel going, and every time you leave a thumbs up, every time you share a video, I truly appreciate it. Guys, you're the best. It's you that keep the channel going. I'm Kim. You're watching Kim Wilson TV. I hope you're having a great narc-free day.